Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Canadian Immigration Live Q&A. I'm your host, Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher. Today, we've got an awesome episode, and the title to this episode is probably going to be very, very interesting for many of you. Do you really need to hire an immigration lawyer to help you with your application? That's the question. I'm not going to answer it right now. We're going to answer it in a little bit. So what's coming? We're going to talk about some immigration lawyers in the news, and some of you who are following it will know what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about something that's happened recently with an immigration lawyer in the news. I know the consultants will be all over it, but I'm going to hit it first. Then we're going to introduce my newest lawyer, Alicia Bahari, who has joined, and I'm super excited. We're going to talk about her recently joining, get a little bit more information about who she is and why she practices immigration and why she decided to join this crazy firm, Holthe Immigration Law, which I am so grateful because she's way smarter than I am. Okay, so let's take a look here and see who's tuning in. Comment below where you're watching from. It is 1:08 p.m. I'm a little bit late getting started today. We have just got a week chock full of every possible thing you could imagine. There's very little margin today to do anything, hardly even prepare for this. So fortunately, Alicia is a good sport, and she's willing to answer questions and basically just jump on like I do, which not all people are comfortable doing that. So I'm grateful that that she's able to do that. So when she gets on, make sure you give lots of thumbs up and say hello. Let's see who's tuning in. As always, Ralph, good to have you, my friend. It's awesome. Up in the fine, fine city of Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, which is where Susan is from. Susan Wood, my other awesome associate. All right, we've got Farshad. Hello. Let's see here. GP saying hi. Farshad saying love from Iran. Welcome, welcome. Winter is here. What is going on? That's hilarious. Someone's got their tagline, winter is here. I hope not. It's still summer and I'm having an awesome time. Okay, let's see who else. We've got Monaim here. Let's see. Okay, Sabia is over in Pakistan. Lots of love to you too. Okay, Seema says, yes, I need to hire, please. Okay, Seema. If anybody actually wants to hire this crazy lawyer and his team to help you, all you have to do is go to this screen. I'm just going to shift my screen just a little bit. All you have to do is go here, and we've actually pulled Alicia in here with my view. That's okay. You're getting a surprise view of Alicia while I'm sharing the screen here. This is where you go. Just click on here, go to the Start Here button, and then either I or Alicia here or Susan will be able to help you with a consult if you have questions. This is the beauty of doing these live Q&As, basically with the support of Igor, who's awesome, but me trying to manage this stuff. This is hilarious. It's quite a comic, quite a series of comedies when I'm trying to do this, but it doesn't matter because the end product, it's the substance, right, guys? It's not the form. Okay, let's see what else we've got going on here. Who else is joining us? Let's see. We've got Masood is over in Pakistan. Great. John is up in Edmonton. Hey, John, I also want to give a heartfelt, my feelings. You probably don't watch a lot of hockey, but you've mentioned two places. Watching from Edmonton, recently moved to Toronto. Well, if you're a hockey fan, you would be very, very sad. You should be moving to Calgary, my friend, where the Flames have advanced. Now, much to the chagrin of Susan, my colleague up in Edmonton, who saw their Edmonton Oilers not advance, and my brother-in-law and all of the Toronto fans who also saw their hockey teams not advance in the playoffs. My heart goes out to you. John, you should be moving to Calgary, the city of champions. All right. Okay. I couldn't help it. I couldn't help it, guys. Okay. Liliana, it's good to see you again from Germany. Great to have you tuning in. And I know it's super late over there, you guys. It's really late for a lot of you. Mohammed's over in Islamabad. Welcome. We've got Marista is South Africa. Great. Ravi, same thing. My heart goes out to you if you're a Toronto Maple Leafs fan. Chantel's in South Africa. We've got a Facebook user in India. And remember, you Facebook users, you're watching on the Express Entry Law private Facebook group. Because of restrictions with private groups, your actual profile isn't visible. So if you want to jump over to the Canadian Immigration Institute, then you can actually have your profile appear so we can see who you are. And this is really cool. We've got Kevin, who's over in Toronto as well. Igor says this episode's going great. I hope so, my friend. Igor's smart. He actually moved to Calgary, so he can still cheer for the Flames. So very cool. All right, Karachi, Navade is over there. Joe says looking 10 years younger. Yes, guys, I decided to shave today. So I got rid of the scraggly. And do you know what my wife and my daughter said to me? They said, Mark, you look much better. And in fairness, they're right. I know, but we went camping. I didn't shave. I thought, you know what? I've never, ever tried to grow out any scruff. So I let it grow. And yes, it looked terrible, but it's gone now. And apparently I look younger. So that's great. All right. Especially because I'm 47. So what does that give me? So I can now start saying that I'm 37, I guess. Okay. Great shout outs. We've got Ishan down in Texas. We got to have our US contingent because I know there's a ton of you over there. JP's over in Punjab. Vidya is in India. Ishfaq is Kashmir. We'll give Ishfaq a little. And then we've got Innocent over in Nigeria. Excellent. The African connection. Do you guys see why I'm doing this? Like, people are connecting from all over the world. I've yet to have anyone from Antarctica. Probably not counting on it, but it's entirely possible that maybe one day we might have someone tuning in from Antarctica. All right. Okay. I'm going to pause from now with the shout outs because I want to shift gears, and I'm going to actually make one little change here because I was going to shift over to Alicia here, but I want to show the website first. So before we do that, I want to talk about something that's in the news, and the title of this, remember, is Do I Need to Hire an Immigration Lawyer? So I'm going to be very honest. I'm going to be very open about this. I'm going to shift over to the website, and then I am going to see if I'm going to unlock this. Poor Alicia, she's like, what is this crazy guy doing? So I'm going to disappear Alicia there so I can introduce her formally. That was a little teaser, you guys. That was a little teaser. Okay, so this is what I want to show you here. And forget about me being on here. You don't have to see me. I want to show you this, all right? This is important. Who can represent you? Immigration lawyers, regulated immigration consultants, and people who are doing it for free. Although you get what you pay for in those circumstances. But there are people that provide free assistance, and hey, they can represent you if you're not paying them anything. But lawyers and consultants can do it. Lawyers are governed by the law societies within their province. And I can tell you those law societies freak the living daylights out of us lawyers. Why? Because if anything is wrong, for example, trust funds, trust accounts, if the money isn't matched up perfectly, if there's something off, we can actually face disbarment. So let me tell you the story of Paul Hess here, who I know. And Paul, unfortunately, alleged, I don't want to say anything, but there was allegations that there were a lot of things that Paul did that were not ethical and that didn't fall in line with the code of professional conduct for the law society, and maybe borderline criminal, I don't know. But it's in the news. You can go here, you can read it. So this man is a lawsuit. He claims that he lost $350,000 in an investment scheme that was set up by Paul Hess. So what has happened to Paul Hess? As a lawyer, he's an immigration lawyer, not a consultant. He's a lawyer. So Paul allegedly basically swindled money out of a bunch of people, and a lot of money. And so Paul was working at one of the more prestigious law firms, Pitt Blado in Manitoba. And unfortunately, in his situation, this all came to light. And who knows what causes people to do these things, right? Who knows? But there are a bunch of allegations of fraud that were in existence here. And immediately, Paul was suspended from the law society in Manitoba. And what does that mean? You can't practice. Like, as soon as it came out, bang, there was a suspension. Once they determined the nature of the claims, and his law firm terminated him. So he immediately was fired. So this is what happens when a lawyer goes rogue. And once again, I don't know the extent to which any of this has been proven, but obviously there was enough there to justify the law society in immediately suspending him. Okay. I can speak to a consultant that is right now in my own city who has had things alleged against them. And there's been nothing that's happened. Zero. So I'll leave that on its own. That's a separate discussion. But when you hire an immigration lawyer, one thing you can trust, that if that lawyer screws you over, you can report them to the Law Society and it can affect their ability to practice law. I'm not talking about just immigration, but any kinds of law. So that's the difference. That's the protection that exists when you are, when you have a lawyer that you've retained to assist you. Now, I would hope that the vast majority of lawyers are ethical, that they follow the rules, that they're not going out trying to steal people's money. But understand, when that happens and it comes to light, the law societies are swift and they take action quickly. Why? To protect the public. That's why it exists. So I am governed by the Law Society of Alberta, and I can tell you, if anything like this happened for me, like, it would be lights out. So I wanted to point that out because, you know, I know Paul, and I don't know what the circumstances were with what happened to him, but the reality is, when a lawyer runs afoul, and lawyers are not perfect by any means. And sometimes I get on here and I probably talk too much about slagging consultants, and I don't mean to do that. There are some really good consultants out there that do a fantastic job. But the problem that I have is that to this point, the protection of the public has been very, very limited. In other words, there's no real mechanism. And I guess I should point out one more thing. I'm going to flip back here before we jump over to Alicia. When it comes to Paul here, Paul is not only being suspended by the Law Society of Manitoba, he's not only lost his job with Pibledo, but this whole nature of this article is a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit that's now being brought to him to recoup the money that was lost in these investments. And who is bringing that? Let's just flip down here and I'll show you who's bringing it forward. Right here, Ken Zafman, a lawyer representing Tian. Well, understand, Ken Zafman is one of our, you know, pioneering immigration lawyers in the country. Ken is an immigration lawyer in Manitoba who has now taken upon himself to actually sue consultants who steal their clients' money. And the best part of this is Ken is not a respecter of persons. If there's a lawyer who has also done things that have defrauded clients, Ken doesn't care. He'll sue them just the same. It's all about the protection of the public. And that's why I can unequivocally say that hiring an immigration lawyer to represent you is in your best interest. If you're looking purely from the protection and knowing that someone is not going to cheat you out of your money, if a lawyer does it, trust me, you can go to the Law Society and there's going to be serious ramifications. If a consultant does that, well, I don't know. I don't even know what the consultants do. I think if there's fee disputes or things like that, I think your only remedy is to hire someone like Ken to sue them in the civil courts. But anyways, so I wanted to share that with all of you guys today, just because it's something that's in the news and it's important. And are lawyers perfect without, you know, there being bad apples among us? No, there are. But that's why the law societies exist. And I sure hope, and I know I had a recent discussion with the head of CAPIC, Dory Jade, and you know, the intention is with the new college and the new regulator and the way it's being governed, that they're now going to have the teeth and the ability to go after consultants that basically cheat and steal the money of their clients and don't represent them properly. But we'll see. This is the third kick at the can, and we'll see how it plays out. I, for one, hope that it works. I do. I genuinely do, because it's all about the protection of public, but we'll see how it plays out. Okay. Whew, that was a lot to get through, and I know people probably have a ton of comments. I'm not sure if anyone has... there's a ton of comments, and I can't get through all of them as we're transitioning to... I'm not even going to post some of these. Some of these are hilarious. Jodette, he says, I love Alberta because of you, Mark. I'm going to hire you soon. Fantastic. I love Alberta, period. So anyways, we've got a bunch of other ones here. Bella, big shout out to you. Bella is one of my favorite people in the world. And Bella, I wish I could be there for Jaden's birthday. But you wait, there's going to be something there. I will make an appearance in one way or another. Bella is a fantastic permanent resident of Canada who we had quite a battle. And if you want to learn more about Bella, just go back and search on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, and you'll find out more about Bella. Okay, all right, there's a bunch of comments. And if you have questions, I want you to hold off on those for the first little bit here. Okay, actually, I better qualify this too. Crudy says how to become an IRCC approved immigration lawyer. Okay, this is a common misunderstanding. IRCC has nothing to do with lawyers. So IRCC are immigration consultants. They have their own regulator. They have their own standards for what it takes to become a representative. Lawyers are separate. We have the law societies. They are two distinct things. So don't confuse them. Okay, and Dennis, I'll give you a shout out from Sweden. Okay, without any further ado, it is now time to switch over. And poor Alicia has been wondering, what have I gotten myself into? This Mark is actually kind of crazy, you know? So, but hey, she's here and there's no backing out now. So we're going to bring her in as my latest guest. Alicia, welcome. It's great to have you. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Mark.
She's like, oh no, what is he going to ask me? Alicia is the newest lawyer to Houthi immigration law, and Alicia's actually been practicing for longer than I am. And like I said before, I one of the biggest decisions in hiring Alicia is that she's kind of wired like us. And what I mean by that is she's someone who cares about her clients and puts their interests first. And that's really one of the most important prerequisites for joining Houthi immigration law is that you genuinely care. And if you do, then that's great. You've got a big leg up in joining us. Now, also, you have to be pretty good at what you do. And fortunately for me, Alicia is actually better than I am, and she's smarter than I am. So it's easy to build a firm with people that are more intelligent than you. So I know I'm probably embarrassing Alicia a little bit, but she should be saying, yes, it's true. It's true. Alicia, so you're based, where are you based?
So I'm based in Calgary. I'm not so far away from Lethbridge. I'm between Edmonton, where Susan is, and you, Mark, in Lethbridge. So I'm right in the middle. I'm in central Alberta, a little bit closer to the mountains.
Awesome. That's fantastic. It is so good to have you joining. What I wanted to do today was just talk a little bit about Alicia, introduce her to all of you, because as the firm grows, it's just not possible for me to be able to do everything for everyone. But I also know that I'm not the only person in the world that is able to give you unbelievable help and support. And so that's why I'm bringing in lawyers, like I said, that kind of fit, that, you know, that want to practice the same way that I do and are, you know, excited about really making the world a better place. And so that's one of the reasons why I was really excited to have Alicia join. Now, Alicia, tell us a little bit about your professional background. What kind of things have you done?
So that's one of the things too, I think, when we're talking about why you hire a lawyer, because we've had to go to school for a very long time. So almost any lawyer you'll look at has had to do an undergraduate degree. I did an undergraduate degree in English, actually, at the University of Calgary. And then I did my law degree at the University of Alberta. So that was 7 years of university, 4 years plus 3 years of law school, and then a year of articling. So I came back to Calgary to article. So that's one nice thing when you look at lawyers, they've probably had to go to school for 7 or 8 years before they get to talk to clients in real life.
Yeah.
I started articling in Calgary and I've worked for a number of firms here. I've worked for smaller kind of boutique firms for immigration as well as medium-sized firms. And then I've just been recently working in a nonprofit legal clinic as well, practicing immigration law.
That's cool. So tell us about this nonprofit legal clinic, because this is something people don't know about. They just don't. Now, of course, you went there because the salary was massive and you were going to be making millions of dollars, right? That's probably what drove you there, correct?
So it is a nonprofit legal clinic. It's called Calgary Legal Guidance, and there is one Calgary Legal Guidance for the whole city and the surrounding area. So if you do have a very serious immigration issue and legal aid is not able to help you, then sometimes it's possible to work with the nonprofit sector. So the other organizations that are immigrant serving organizations have outreach clinics, and then there's also CLG that may or may not be able to provide assistance on a pro bono basis. But yes, I was working there part-time as a program lawyer, but I also maintain my own private practice as well.
Yes. So what I'm getting at here is that Alicia took that job as much as anything to give back and to help. And there are lots of people who can't afford any representative and they need help. And so one of the big pushes across the country with us immigration lawyers is access to justice, and being able to do things in ways that give every single person the right to hire an immigration lawyer. And that's really the mandate. That's one of the missions of healthy immigration law, is to find ways to provide legal support to people in the way that they need it, but in a way that they can afford it. And that's why we've structured what we do within the firm and in a way that collaborates with our clients, so that we can work together on applications to help keep the costs down, but in no way sacrifice the level of service that an immigration lawyer can provide. So very, very cool, Alicia, that you do that. And I think a lot of immigration lawyers across the country spend a lot of time doing pro bono, which is work that is not paid, but it's just purely designed to help the disadvantaged. And so, and even within our own firm right now, we've got a number of pro bono clients. One we're working on just today, right? So that's what it's about being an immigration lawyer. That's what it's about being an immigration professional. So very cool. So what kind of things do you like in terms of practice areas, Alicia?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, Marks, and say that those outreach clinics, it's all staffed by lawyers who are immigration lawyers in Calgary and surrounding areas who are volunteering their time to give that service to people for free, for people who really can't afford it. So kudos to our colleagues who are also giving back to the community and trying to help out. In terms of my practice area, I love helping people. I honestly do. That's why I am an immigration lawyer, because
I couldn't help that. Yes. I'm embarrassing her now.
Immigration law is a little almost bit like criminal law, where you have a big system and it's an administrative system, and there are many people in that system, Department of Justice lawyers, immigration officers, who are honestly doing their best, but it's a huge, huge administrative system. And when you look at stacking up one person against that administrative machine, it's very, very important that that one person who's trying to navigate immigration law has all the tools and information that they need to be able to be successful. So honestly, I try to help people. I try to help families. I help people who are trying to study and work in Canada. I help employers or HR professionals who are doing their best to struggle through the corporate immigration system of work permits and LMIAs and maybe even provincial nominee programs when they're looking at transitioning to permanent residence. So people who are trying to navigate immigration really need some assistance at some key junctures, and I think that's where immigration lawyers can provide some help.
Absolutely. One of the key junctures that traditionally healthy immigration law has not been able to provide support in is the federal court work. And when things go south, when applications are refused for whatever reason, we get lots of consults and people contacting us for help. What do you do when your express entry application is refused? What options do I have? What if my overseas visa was refused? And one of the challenges that we face in many circumstances is if they are if individuals are usually they are represented in the course of that application, often that representative, and you can see I'm trying to be as general as possible, that representative often doesn't want to advise them, hey, you can go seek assistance from a lawyer who can judicially review this, because then they have to show the world exactly what they did in that application that ultimately resulted in it being refused. In many cases, it's just fine, but sometimes that representative did a pretty crappy job, which resulted in the refusal, and then they just tell the person, well, it was your fault, or too bad. And this is, once again, I'm speaking from my own experience, the consults that I've had just in the previous 2 weeks alone, that's been the response. And then someone will come a year later saying, oh, what should I do now? And I'll say, well, why didn't you deal with it immediately? Why didn't you call someone like Alicia right away? Because there are limitation periods. You have to respond quickly. And the response is, well, my representative, they didn't tell me. I didn't know. Right. And so that's something that I'm so excited that we now have as a part of our firm. And we still have some wonderful lawyers that we refer work to outside of the firm. But to be able to handle these things in-house, that's one of the reasons why I've got Alicia here. So if you out there are struggling, we had an application that was refused, then contact us. we can explore all options and understand court is the last. Like, we don't want to just jump that direction, but maybe there's some things that we can do to help you. And so super grateful, Alicia, that you're able to do that. So you also mentioned, in addition to that, we don't, like, this really is targeted to a large extent to individuals, but in my previous life and even currently, we have a number of corporate clients that we work through, but you've got experience with that as well.
Yep, absolutely. And just going back to the judicial review or making sure that people know what their options are, in terms of what a consultant can and cannot do, consultants cannot help at federal court stage. So that's not something that anybody's able to do other than an immigration lawyer, or perhaps somebody tries to struggle through the process as a self-represented litigant, which is really not usually preferred. So if you're looking at continuing that application and getting a judicial review, or even looking into what your possible options are for applications to be reconsidered, then that's something that really lawyers should be advising on, so that people understand if they have any sort of rights. And it's not always an appeal, it might be a judicial review. There's a few technicalities there, but we can definitely go through what those options entail. So there are some nice benefits too about being able to know what the options are if you are refused.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons. So the question was, do you really need to hire an immigration lawyer to help you file your immigration application? Guys, there was a time where I was really embarrassed to say, yeah, it would really benefit. It would really help, because, I believe people are intelligent. People can sort things out themselves. You can see the internet is flooded with information. The Immigration, Citizenship and Immigration Canada, they try to make things as transparent and understandable and intelligible as possible. There's guides, there's Q&As that they have on there. And without a doubt, there's a lot of information to help you. But given my most recent experience, at least the beginning of this year, it has come to my attention so frequently that people can do everything that they think is right, and then have one little thing off that gets their application rejected. And it's not just express entry. It's all aspects of immigration. And this one-touch policy that immigration has can have a disastrous effect on you and your family. And so now I answer people, yes, it's actually in your best interest to hire an immigration lawyer. And because of the way we structure our services, it's all about doing it in a collaborative way where you do your part, we do ours. And in the end, that product is awesome. I might make a mistake if I'm just doing things individually. You may make a mistake if you do things individually, but there's a far greater likelihood we're going to catch those mistakes when we're working collaboratively. And that's our model. And so, she's currently serving as the chair of the Southern Alberta section of the CBA. And is that coming to an end for you in a couple of weeks, or do you have one more year left on that tenure?
No, I'll move over as past chair in September.
Okay. Very cool. And I have the very scary prospect right now of becoming the national chair in just a couple of weeks. And it's overwhelming, largely because I look back at all of the amazing lawyers who've sat in those positions, and I know what I can offer. I know what I'm going to do, but wow, just some unbelievable lawyers that kind of led the way before me. So you can see, and how much were you paid to do that, Alicia?
That's all volunteer. So Canadian Bar Association positions are all volunteer.
I was actually saying that a little facetiously. Yeah, it's volunteer. So we do all of these things as a way of giving back to our profession, the pro bono work, everything else, even this right now. So I know I've talked a lot about our firm, talked a lot about Alicia, but that's really what I wanted to get at. The reality is, yes, you can do your applications on your own. And that's part of the reason that we follow this collaborative model, so that you control it. You drive the ship forward. We're here to support you with as much or as little support as you need. And that's our model. And we work with people who are kind of DIYers at heart, right? But they value the advice that an immigration lawyer can give them in the process. And I absolutely love the way that the firm is going. I'm really excited about it. If I can add people like Alicia into the mix, it's just the sky is the limit. And the beauty of this whole process is that we all essentially work out of our homes. And so because of that, we pass that cost on to you guys. In other words, that results in the fees being structured the way they are, because we don't have this big fancy office with a fancy boardroom. But who's going to those boardrooms anyways right now, right? So we started all of that in December before this whole pandemic hit. So that's about all that I wanted to say in terms of, hiring an immigration lawyer. My position is it will only help you, but you have the option of soldiering forward, taking the information that we're sharing here and moving forward on your own. But if you ever need help, assistance, that's the fun part. We can be there in whatever way you need us to be. So anything, visas refused, challenges, not quite sure what direction to go. Like I said, Alicia is awesome, and her, just like Susan Wood, are fully available. Sometimes you guys will connect and I only want to talk to Mark because he's the one and I am here. But understand there's a limited amount of time that is available each week. And as I take on this bigger role with the Canadian Bar Association, I have to make sure that I bring people in to help support. And I'm just excited to have Alicia with us. So thanks so much, Alicia, for joining. This is great.
I'm excited to be here. I also wanted to say, if somebody was asking about IRCC approved lawyers, it is notable that the acronyms are kind of confusing sometimes.
Yeah.
So Immigration, Refugees, Citizenship Canada is an organization that's a federal body, but lawyers are regulated by the Law Society. So if you ever want to check to see if a lawyer is properly accredited, then you go to that provincial law society and there's a drop-down list and you can always find if that lawyer is in status.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what I want to do now is, this is funny, Ralph, he's hilarious. Immigration with a lawyer, 90 to 100%. Without a lawyer, 50-50. I post that just out of fun. Anyone who says that they are even lawyer or consultant that says 100% guaranteed your application is going to be approved, do not trust them. Don't. If someone says, yep, slam dunk, no issues, it's definitely going to get approved. No one can guarantee that, whether they're a lawyer, whether they're a consultant. I can't speak to Ralph here and his estimation. By no means does this reflect what I believe. There are some wonderful consultants out there, like I said, and there's some crappy lawyers out there. But at the end of the day, understand anyone who's proposing that there's a 100% guarantee, if you pay more money, don't trust them. All right. But Ralph's a good guy, and I know what he was getting at. He is just an exceptional guy, and he's trying to promote, and I appreciate that, Ralph. Okay, let's take a look at just a few questions. So if you have a question specifically for Alicia, now is the time to post it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm going to actually make, this is the fun stuff that we can do. I'm going to do this on the fly, and I'm going to make some space here. I'm just going to drop our names off so we got a little bit more room for questions. So if you have a question for Alicia or me, post it now and we'll pull it up. Okay, let's see what we got here. So Shirag says, hey, in what medical conditions PR applications get refused? Okay, well, that's a big question. Alicia, do you want to tackle that at a high level? Understand, guys, if it says, I have sickle cell anemia or something like that, will I be medically inadmissible? That's when I'll do that because anything that relates specifically to you guys, that's legal advice, and you would actually need to book a consult to do that. So let's see if Alicia can take a crack at this one, giving a general answer to Shirag. What do you think?
So medical inadmissibility is a whole area that could get really complicated depending on what kind of medical condition might be involved. And usually, if you're looking at a PR application, you're looking at medical inadmissibility in terms of excessive demand. And that definition has changed definitely because of case law over the years. So it really is going to depend on how expensive your medical condition will be for the Canadian healthcare system. And if it's above what the average Canadian would cost the healthcare system, then there's a possibility that it might be considered excessive demand. So that's kind of a broad brush overview of something that could be a concern.
Yeah, exactly. And Shirag, obviously it depends specifically on the condition. And so there's a wide range of possible things. And one thing I'll point out, over the years, there used to be something that was cruel and heartless and it just didn't make sense why it was even in the legislation. And that was, excluding families who had a child that maybe had a developmental disorder or something that would cause excessive demand on Canadian social services. And thanks to the amazing work that some immigration lawyers did in really pushing that envelope, now we've got an expansion, right, Alicia, of what's considered to be excessive demand. And so that monetary value of what they consider to be, if you cross it, medically inadmissible or make the family medically inadmissible, now that's increased.
That's right. So there's a higher overall limit in terms of what could make you medically inadmissible. And just like you were mentioning, Mark, there are some things that don't count towards that value of what constitutes excessive demand. So if you have a child and you're able to provide for speech pathology, for example, that's something that probably now is not going to make that child medically inadmissible, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's awesome. Great question, Shreg. Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's see here. Let's try to find one here. Let's see here. Okay, so this is a little bit bigger, and it's going to take over a little bit of our screen, but it'll still work. So Jode says, in the AAPR, there's a question related to, have you applied to IRCC before? Definitely answer is no, but I have a profile that does not mean application. So I mentioned no or yes. Please clarify as DIY, it is not mentioned. Okay, so I think Jode is subscribed to my Express Entry DIY guide. And so he's basically asking if you've submitted a profile, which obviously everybody has before they get their ITA, do you indicate that you've applied to IRCC before? And I don't know if you want to tackle that one, Alicia. I know my feelings on it.
So, I mean, Mark, you can definitely give your feelings on that particular issue. I think it is a question that you are right in asking because it's very important to get it correct. You want to make sure that if you have any sort of previous application to immigration that you're disclosing that, because otherwise if you're concealing something, you're risking misrepresenting, and that can possibly have a 5-year bar. So it's very important that you are making sure that you're correct in your answer.
Yeah. And when I look at profiles, so in your situation, it's going to ask you for your file number. And so whenever an individual is applying and they haven't applied to anything else before, they've only submitted just their profile, which has resulted in their ITA, I always indicate no in those circumstances. So if you've submitted multiple profiles and canceled them and opened up new MyCIC accounts and are submitting a new profile when maybe there's another one out there in Express Entry land, then yes, in those cases, I will say, yeah, I have submitted a previous application. Why are they asking this, Jode? The reason they're asking it, and we've run into this situation today, Alicia and I, with another client, it's because they're trying to match up your previous immigration history with your current history. And that's why they ask, so that they can put everything together, so they don't have two independent profiles for Jode out there. And that's why they're asking it. But also, they also will use it against you if you don't answer properly, and could find misrepresentation if you haven't disclosed previous applications. Now, I don't know how often that happens. It happens a lot more when you're describing whether or not you've had previous visa refusals, but still, it is something to be aware of. So that's how I approach it. Okay, anything else to add, Alicia, or is that good for that one?
No, I think that's fair. There's also a definition under Section 10 of what's a complete application. Yep. And so most of the time, unless you've actually submitted an application, it's not an application. There are some circumstances where you may have come to the border and that might be deemed to be an application for entry.
Yes. Okay. All right. So let's jump over here to CF. And CF says, hey, Mark, I've worked for a bit. Now, this technically could be this, but I've reviewed it and I think I can genericize it to benefit everybody else. So I worked for a bit more than a year in an architectural firm. I was paid cash and the firm does not have a website. Is it going to be a problem? So what is the question being asked here? What if my company generally doesn't have a website? I was paid in cash. How do I prove this? Well, understand, your company doesn't necessarily need to have a website, but you do have to be able to prove that they existed. So is there something else? Is there, are they registered with a corporate registry in your country? Is there something that they can go in to verify that the company exists? That's the first thing I'll say. When it comes to being paid cash, immigration also doesn't ask the form in which you were paid. They ask for a reference letter and pay stubs if available. So did the company offer pay stubs for you or in conjunction with the cash? The more of the pieces that don't exist in your situation, in other words, the more likely it is that you can't provide proof that the company existed, that you can't prove that you were actually paid, those are going to go against an officer's overall assessment of your work history. So like most people, CF, what I'll say is book a consult, let's dive in and let's talk about it. But generally speaking, you guys need to appreciate the serious nature of this. We see refusals all the time where they were unable to verify the employment. I would say probably half of the people who book consults who've had their application refused, or it's been stalled out for so long that they choose to do an ATIP. The ATIP will say further review required for work experience. And why? Often because they can't verify that the company exists, or they can't verify that the person actually did and performed the duties associated with the job they're claiming. So those are just some very general tips when it comes to this type of thing. But you're right. A lot of people are uncertain when it comes to cash. How do I document it? But there is no specific rule that you have to be paid via electronic transfer into your account or by check or some other form. So, all right. Okay, let's see what we have here. Sai says, an immigration lawyer is always a father of migration where applicant is just like a son. Do you know what, Sai? I'm glad you brought that up because you're right. You really are. Now, the paternal nature of your question is, paternalistic could be flipped around and it could be the mother of immigration and the mother, and the daughter. But you're right. And this is something that I actually have been trying to move away from. And this paternalistic nature of practice supposes that the lawyer knows everything, right? Or add the consultant in, that the consultant knows everything. They've got all the knowledge. They're not going to share anything with you. They're going to give you the questionnaire. You're going to fill it out, and then you're just going to have to trust them that they do everything right. That I hate. That is one of the reasons why I wanted to change the way we practice. I want to work collaboratively with you. Alicia, Susan, we want to get on a video call with you and look at your documents together. Two heads are always better than one. And we may have the knowledge from a legal standpoint. We may have, like Alicia, you've been at this for 17 years or more. I'm closing in on 15, maybe I've passed 15 now. We don't pretend to know everything there is, but sure, having practiced that long in immigration, we've got a pretty good idea of tendencies. We understand things in ways that someone maybe who hasn't had that experience does. But at the end of the day, the application is never as strong unless we pull you guys in. We teach you why we're asking the questions, and then together we put together the final package, which I love. I don't know what your thoughts are on this one. And maybe this isn't even what Sai was asking, Alicia, but this totally hit a nerve with me.
Well, I think for sure we're partners in terms of navigating this system. And I think it's really important for us as immigration lawyers to realize that it's not our life at the end of the day, right? It's somebody else's life and their family, and whether their spouse gets to come or whether their parents get to come. And that has huge ramifications. So I feel that really my job as an immigration lawyer, my duty is to give you all the knowledge that you would need to make decisions that are going to affect your life, and to try to understand what would be best given your circumstances that you're telling me. But the client has to live with that decision at the end of the day.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. All
Mark,
right.
Quickly circle back
Yep.
to the last question. Sometimes,
Yep.
Employer obligations are really important as well. So sometimes if an employer is paying cash but not actually following proper payroll and not actually making their deductions and paying Canadian tax the way that they're supposed to be, that can be an issue as well. So there are ways as employees to make sure that your employer is following the law provincially and federally, so that you are getting paid and there's a record that you're properly getting paid too. So that's the other piece of the puzzle there.
Yeah, that's a good point. And sometimes I'll always assume that the question that's being asked is overseas, but you're exactly right. Sometimes in Canada that happens, and sometimes your employer will be paying cash Because they don't want to follow the rules. They don't want to remit what they're supposed to as an employer, their obligations. And so, yes, that can cause issues. Okay, excellent. Okay, let's see here. Oh, I think this one is maybe a little bit. Well, it's up anyway. So, okay, we have immigration lawyers not following the PTSD. Don't know what that is. So, referred to you by Beth Holthe, who is my sister-in-law, and Wendy Smart, who is my cousin. How can we be sure we won't be set aside again? Great question, Heather. The reality is all I can do is speak for myself. Now, PTSD, not quite sure what that issue is, Heather, but reach out and you'll find out. And then once you get the response back from us, then I want you to make sure you go on in the next live and share your experience. If we drop the ball, then you can go on and say, Mark Holthe's firm is no different than anyone else. He doesn't really care. All of this is just a sham. Okay? So that's the best way to do it, Heather. So reach out, let me know how we can help, and we'll go from there. See? I don't just choose the questions that are actually favorable to us. So understand we try to keep it impartial. Let's see what we have here. A lot of people are posting a lot of quite lengthy questions. Okay, so here's a question, and let's see if we can answer this one. So this one says, is there any possibility to get a job offer without an LMIA? Already working for the employer for 1 year as a supervisor. Thank you. Okay, so this Facebook user, I'm assuming you're probably working on a post-grad work permit. Probably, I think this is the issue. And what many people don't understand is that those job offers, at least the extra 50 points or 200 points if you're working in a 00 knock, those extra bonus points only are available if you have an employer-specific work permit. Now, are there other work permits outside of LMIAs? Yes, there are. Under the International Mobility Program, there are some, such as intercompany transfers or our new US, Mexico, Canada agreement, our old NAFTA applications. Those all have employer-specific work permits, and the rules are a little bit different. It's not instant that you get those points. You actually have to work in Canada for up to a year, but that's the route to go. But for you, who's probably a post-grad work permit holder, getting that job offer, the only way they can do it is by getting that LMIA. There really isn't too many other routes. There's International Experience Canada, which sometimes there's young professionals that have employer-specific work permits. But if you're on a spousal open work permit, if you're on a post-grad work permit, those are all open and they're not eligible for those extra 50 points. Anything to add, Alicia?
Those are the main ones. There's sometimes the Francophone Mobility Program.
Yes, good point. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So good point. Yeah. So there's a number of other work permits that are employer specific, and those ones can open that door for you. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Here's one from Manoj. It's a big one. He says, hey, Mark and Alicia, when do you think spousal sponsorships will start getting processed? I submitted an application for my wife 5 months back, and the application is yet to be opened. Yes, my friend, that is the case. What do you think, Alicia? Any prognostication on this as far as when IRCC may start with moving these things forward?
I mean, I guess it's always a question of where the application was submitted, because different posts are going to be moving and opening depending on how the pandemic's rolling out in that country. It depends whether it was an inside Canada spousal sponsorship or a family class sponsorship overseas. So there's a few factors in terms of what might make it move more quickly. Yeah. I think things are very, very slowly starting to open in some places, and they're able to switch to online processing whenever they can. But there's no guarantees in immigration.
No, we don't know. And I think one of the main factors is the social distancing in countries, even in Canada. One of the problems with these paper-based applications is that the officer just can't get together. And so because they're paper, the government has started these pilots, these groups of people that will go in and officers and scan all of the paper-based applications in. And they're starting to do that now from within Canada. And so we should start to see some movement. But until the social distancing restrictions are opened up and officers are able to come back, I think there are going to be delays. And remember, it's not just Canada, but it's your country as well. And Immigration Canada, Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada are bound by the domestic laws in the countries where the visas offices are based. And so they can't just bring all of their officers back to the embassy or the consulate unless the country allows them to do that. So that's part of the issue that we're dealing with. Okay, let's try to find one last question as we wrap up here. Let's see. And I want to apologize. There were a lot of people who posted a lot of questions, and we just were not able to get to them. So I apologize for that. Let's see. I could post Heather's follow-up question. Will a lawyer make it faster? I guess the short answer for this question is that just because a person is a lawyer doesn't mean that and they file it doesn't mean the application is going to go through any faster. Anyone who says that is not telling the truth. The theory is that if the application is done properly and correct, it is going to go as fast as it possibly can. And so don't ever believe anyone, whether it's a consultant or a lawyer, who says if you hire me, the application is going to get processed quicker. That's not the case. What you can rely on, hopefully, is that they know what they're doing, and that in that you're not going to get an application kicked back because it's incomplete, or be asked to submit further information because there was something deficient in the application. Any thoughts on that one, Alicia?
No, I think that's the main thing, is that sometimes hiring somebody who knows what they're doing will save time because you're not going back and forth with a refused application, or something has been missed, or a form hasn't been signed, or a field is missing. So, yeah. I mean, making sure that it's complete is key.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll put one last one up here, actually. Sarish says, hey, does the visa refusal of any country of an unaccompanying spouse impact immigration applications? And I will actually take this up one notch. Does the visa refusal of even you as a principal applicant impact an immigration application? And what I always tell my clients is, look, it depends on the circumstances, that visa refusal. But generally speaking, your job is to disclose it. And if you do that, very rarely will a prior visa refusal in another country, even Canada, impact negatively on your application unless there was something added to it, like there was some misrepresentation, or there was something akin to criminality, fraud within it. But generally, I see people who have visa refusals, visit visas to the US, for example, who then are in a position where, do I disclose it? What if I disclose it? It's going to negatively impact on Canada. They're not going to want me because the US rejected me. That is a lie. Anyone who's peddling that, and anyone who tells you don't disclose it, it's better if you don't say anything, you can basically fire them on the spot, because you have a duty to disclose everything. It asks if your visa was refused, you disclose it. Now, whether it's you as a principal applicant or whether it's your spouse that's had that visa refusal, your job is to disclose it. And there are very rare circumstances where a mere visa refusal, whether they feel you won't go back to your country, or it's a study visa refusal or a visitor visa, very rarely will that ever impact on the admissibility of you as a principal applicant or your spouse in the context of an immigration application. It's different for a temporary, for sure. If you're coming to visit or study, then yes, a prior temporary refusal in any other country could be seen or used in part towards an officer's decision as to whether or not they're going to approve your current one. But yeah, in the context of an immigration application, I've never seen a mere visa refusal in those circumstances ever harm anyone. Alicia, any thoughts? I tend to speak in these generalities. Alicia is much more careful and cautious than I am.
I would say always be honest. Always, always be honest. So if you have a refusal, then you do have to disclose. The question actually asks you, is there a refusal in Canada or to any other country? And if you fail to disclose another country's refusal, it could be a big deal. Now you can be looking at misrep instead of just an innocent refusal on some sort of visitor visa that's explainable or explicable. So make sure that if there's any doubt, you disclose it, and you talk to a lawyer if you have questions about the circumstances surrounding that refusal, but always disclose it. Always tell the truth. Absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Alicia. I appreciate you joining me. Those who've joined in late, unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up today, but Alicia is the newest member of Healthy Immigration Law. And she is an immigration lawyer who joined us at the beginning of this month. We're super excited to have her with us and just add her knowledge and experience. Highlights from our discussion, one of the things that she really focuses on a lot are what to do when your visa application is rejected. And she is experienced in filing the necessary federal court applications, leave applications to challenge decisions of officers when the officers, it's just not reasonable, when they're wrong. And that's the added level that us as immigration lawyers offer. But as we indicated before, that's kind of the last option. We always try to solve it in a way that isn't going to cost you lots of money. But if we need to really challenge in your life, an opportunity in Canada is directly impacted by this refusal and you have no other way, then that's one of the tools that we have in our toolbox. So, all right. Thank you so much, Alicia, for joining. It was great. And we'll definitely have Alicia to come back and talk about these other areas in more detail and just join me in the future. So thanks, Alicia.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Okay, we'll say goodbye to Alicia, and I want to thank all of you once again for joining. There were so many questions. My sincerest apologies. I've got another consult that's starting right now. We really need to try to keep this to 1 hour, but please understand, I'll be back on Thursday. I'll devote it to a lot more open-ended questions. We won't have as much discussion in the beginning. It'll be really focused on Q&As, answering your questions. So come back Thursday, 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Around 1 p.m. The goal is that I'll be able to start as close as I can to 1, and we'll just try to answer more of your questions about Canadian immigration. I always want to say at the very end of any of these that I do, I'm going to flip over to my screen again. Remember, guys, that I have my Canadian Immigration Institute, which is the host and houses my do-it-yourself courses. And one of the ones that I do and market more than any other is my Express Entry do-it-yourself course. And this course is for those that are tuning in, watching these videos live. I always post this code just for you guys, which is EEDIY50. And when you type that in and you click apply, you can get 50% off, basically $248.50 off the regular price of $497. And this course walks you through the whole Express Entry process. And to point out one other thing here before I jump on my other call, if you go to the Canadian Immigration Institute and you type in CR courses, and remember it's CanadianImmigrationInstitute.com, click on CR courses, you will see here that there is try for free. And this allows you to log in and check out the first 2 modules, which are all designed to help you know whether or not Express Entry is right. You don't need to hire a consultant to tell you, oh, you qualify, you can submit a profile. I tell you whether or not that profile actually has a chance of success. So check it out, totally free. And then you can choose if you fit and you think you've got a chance, then go ahead, purchase the subscription at the discounted rate, and you can go from there. But remember, we're always here. All you need to do is go to holtheyimmigrationlaw.com, click on start here, and you then can enter your information in to book a consult with myself, with Alicia, with Susan. We're all here, immigration lawyers, to help you. All right, guys, it's awesome. I wish that there would more. I wish there were more time to really go into depth with the questions and answering them and supporting you guys in the way that you need to be supported. But remember, Tuesday and Thursday every week, 1 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, right here on the Canadian Immigration Institute YouTube channel, the Facebook page, the Express Entry Law private Facebook group, and Twitter, Holthe Immigration Law's Twitter account via Periscope. Take care, guys. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer. Thanking our special guest, Alicia Bachman-Bahari, who's our newest lawyer joining the firm. It's been wonderful, and I wish you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Canadian immigration.